So, well, we are here now. You're starting I'm going to call this my first official podcast. And from now on, I'm going to be consistent and I'm going to be an official podcaster. And thank you so much to be the first and to share this wrecking time with me. I'm here today with Suzy Reading. We are the Cheltenham Wellbeing Festival in Cheltenham in UK, and it's actually the first ever Wellbeing Festival that Cheltenham is holding, which is amazing. And Suzy Reading is one of the main guests on Self-Care for Moms. That we had the yoga.
We did.
And then we had an amazing panel with some local heroes, Katie and Suzy. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. What a great privilege.
You're so good. You're so good. I was just sharing with Suzy how nervous I am. And I think that's actually a good thing to talk about, because they say if you say it, it's just easier to deal with that. And the thing is, I am very nervous, but I guess my goal is just to face my fears. And I like, according what I've been listening for what you say and you teach, it's a kind of self-care.
It is.
It is a kind of self-care.
Yes.
And yesterday, I was literally binging in some of your podcasts, and I heard something that is actually what's happening with me now. You saying self-care can be uncomfortable. And it's kind of completely opposite of what I thought it was. So can we start talking about that? How uncomfortable self-care can be.
That is a brilliant place to start, because I think a lot of people associate self-care with luxurious, pampering acts.
Yes.
Right? And it can be that. But sometimes the true act of self-care is actually the least thing you feel like doing. It's being honest, and it's acknowledging how you're feeling in this moment. And the real art form is taking care of you in this moment, your present self, but also lovingly tending to the person that you are becoming, your future self. So that's the thing it's a real sort of dance, isn't it, between I want this right now, but hang on, how will that impact on me in the future?
Yes.
So sometimes the true act of self-care is uncomfortable in that it involves us taking a good, honest look. Yeah?
Yes.
And sometimes it's gonna be, if there's conflict in relationship, the true act of self-care is maybe forgiveness, or maybe it's saying I'm sorry, or maybe it's seeking counseling, or maybe it's putting on your running shoes and going for a run when really what you want to do is sit down and veg out in front of the sofa. So it's really important to acknowledge that sometimes self-care is soothing, sometimes it's comfortable, but actually sometimes it's hard. And sometimes it's digging deep. Yeah.
Yes. How self-care became such an important thing for you that you thought, well, I actually have to write a book about it. Because as I said, when I first saw, I was like, self-care. Okay, I'm just going to listen here, but I don't think it's not going to really have anything new. But it actually, there's a lot behind it, which is amazing, interesting, and it's just now something that I'm more aware, and I'm thinking there's a lot of self-care that I have to do. But also, because it was simple, but it was more like, for me, was more like, Sunday self-care, so I'm just going to wash my hair, or I'm going to have a bath. But you teach actually the smallest things ever could be action of self-care, action of self-care. But first question is, how did it become so important in your life that you thought, well, I have to teach other people?
Okay. Well, self-care is the thing that naturally draws all of my different qualifications together. So I'm a chartered psychologist. I'm a yoga teacher, and I'm also I also worked for a decade as a personal trainer. So self-care, empowering people with nourishing practices and tools, actually draws all of those different modalities together. But really what set me on this path to wanting to empower people with the tools of self-care was my own life experience. And I found that even with all of those tools and ideas at my fingertips reach, when life squeezed me the most, that's when self-care dropped away. Because I think that's what happens for a lot of us. We don't have the time, we don't have the energy, we don't have the resources. The things that we used to do to nourish ourselves become inaccessible in that time of squeeze. And what I learnt the hard way is that, you know, no one is immune from energetic bankruptcy.
I love that expression, by the way. It's brilliant, yeah.
It's what it says on the tin. I literally wound up flat on my back because I'd become a mum at the same time as losing my father.
Wow.
And I was lost at sea in this, you know, this maelstrom of emotions of navigating this transition to motherhood at the same time as grieving for my father. And he survived for 15 months without any diagnosis. So it was a very long, drawn-out period of stress. And what, in hindsight, what surprises me is that how did I end up in such a state? Because I had the knowledge of all of those different practices. Yeah, but I still couldn't see the forest for the trees. I still found myself thinking, no, it doesn't matter, I'll skip dinner, I just want to go to sleep, and then waking up the next morning and feeling, you know, absolutely bereft of energy, and then didn't have the energy to do the walk that I knew would be good for my mental health, so into the coffee, and it was like this downward spiral of one poor choice leading to another. But conversely, and this is the really important thing, is that one good choice sets the upward spiral into motion.
Would you say the self-care is to be present as well?
Yes.
I think because the way you say it's just almost like you have to be present, and about not doing these small things, the way I see it works for me, if I'm not doing something that in my mind I was supposed to be doing, I feel bad. And then I spend so much energy thinking that I should be doing this thing.
Yeah.
That affects me.
Yeah.
So, and then I feel like I'm not present enough to recognize that, Sarah, just get it done.
Yes.
It's like the podcast.
Yes.
You know, to be honest, I'm feeling better now.
It's very human though.
Yeah.
It's very human, but I think it's a matter of having some sense of fluidity. A lot of people will say to me, I don't have time for self-care. What they're actually saying is they don't have time for self-care in the shape that they would really love for it to be in.
Yeah.
And I get it. I would love to be able to go away for a weekend or have a big night out or go off to a yoga class. I actually don't have time or necessarily the inclination for that right now because of the toll that it would take in terms of, you know, finances or taking me away from my family. But we always have access to little micro moments of care that we can dot through our day. It's always possible. So it's understanding that self-care doesn't have to take big chunks of time. It doesn't need to be a big investment of cash. It can be just bearing witness to your day as it unfolds.
So with kind of small, how do you say,
micro
moments, another great word, we can, do or be aware during our day that can actually bring us back, be present, and
I think if we actually sort of make a little mental list of what are the things that every human being does on a daily basis, right? We get out of bed. So instead of just rolling out of bed and leaping up or picking up your phone or doing something habitual like that, you could create a little ritual of waking up where you say to yourself, okay, I'm grateful for this breath. Or maybe if there isn't a kid yelling at me, I'm going to listen out and just notice the chorus of birdsong. Or I might think to myself, there is one thing that I'm looking forward to in my day. What is that thing? Even if it's getting back into bed at the end of it, right? So you can imagine the tone that sets your whole day in. So instead of just leaping into sort of mindless action, you've just taken that moment to anchor yourself in the now, and you've harnessed your attention on something life-giving, whether it's your breath, whether it's gratitude, whether it's something you're anticipating, or whether it's nature. Yeah?
Yeah, no, I think what is amazing, it changes everything. It's not like I can't do it. It's too much. I have kids. Like for me, my case, I do not have kids, but I have a husband and I have
running
a business, and it's just
you've got a business, baby.
Yeah, and I always feel like I'm busy. I am busy, and I actually always tell my husband, let's just stop saying that we're busy. I don't like just you're always busy, but then I won't have an excuse, because it's not about stop everything that I'm doing and go to a room and do mindfulness or go. No, it's just about, okay,
everyday
Sara,
things.
right now,
Yeah.
the way you are now, where you are right now, you can change the way
Yes.
you feel.
Yes.
And
So some really simple things that you can do in the moment, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, without anyone on the outside world knowing what you're doing. You can work with your breath. Yeah. You can use your posture, because research has shown the way that we hold our bodies has a tangible impact on our thinking, on our mood, on our sense of self. So if we sit like this naturally, it's actually easy to make someone cry in that shape. It's easier to recall negative memory. It lowers your mood and your subjective energy levels. Conversely, sitting tall, open heart, long spine, we feel more capable, we feel more creative, we feel more responsive to life in its full glory.
Yeah,
so just simply soften the shoulders, relax your jaw, be with your breath, maybe use a mantra. So mantras I love, because people say to me, oh, I wish I could stop myself from thinking that thing or feeling that way. And I think, do you know what? Your brain is designed to think. Let it think. Don't try and clear it. Like, unless you're going to go meditate in some Himalayan cave for 10 years, that's really hard. So instead of trying to not think, give your mind something constructive to think about. So that's where mantra is really helpful. So
just kind of change the focus.
Yeah, it's like give yourself something constructive to anchor your mind on. So maybe it's something like, if time pressure is real, and it is, we're all busy, but if you find yourself saying, I don't have enough time, flip it on its head. Say, I have all the time that I need. And just repeat that. I have all the time that I need.
That's going to be
and even if you're still time pressured, at least you are relaxing into that statement rather than hyping yourself up further by saying, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough time. And actually, that mantra helps you refine what actually is required of you. And there quite often is stuff that you can say, actually, I don't need to get that done today.
Exactly.
It's not the end of the world if that thing doesn't happen in this moment.
It's
all the time I need.
I always say, well, I do worry about things, but at the same time, I always say, what's the point? I can't really change what is happening. Of course, a few things you have control, but normally you worry about something that you cannot control. And so what's the point to put so much energy? And I think what I forget, and I'm sure a lot of you the guys that are watching forget as well, is it helps to stop, to be present. It really, really helps. And I hope that message that you wrote, that you experience, and that you leave, just get out there. I'm going to make sure that I share this video as many times as I can, because I know that everyone that I know, and I'm not talking, we end up focusing about women, but everybody that I know needs to understand that it's not complicated, actually. It's not easy as well.
True. That's such an important point to make. It's simple, but it's not always easy. It's common sense, but it's not always common practice. But it's doable.
Yes.
It's making people aware that it doesn't have to be grand or elaborate or timely or cost a lot of money. It is so doable. But we've just got to give ourselves permission to do it.
Yes.
And to realize the value and understand that everybody needs the opportunity to nourish themselves. And I think in times gone by, in Australia we had public health campaigns about what constitutes healthy eating and how important it is to move on a regular basis and what constitutes a healthy relationship with alcohol. But now we're starting to talk more about mental health. And of course it makes sense that we're looking at, well, how is it that we can take care of our minds and our hearts?
Yeah.
So it's so important that we have this dialogue.
Yeah, I was saying when the Cheltenham Wellbeing came up, I was thinking, well, a lot of us, when you talk well-being, we think about dieting.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's actually nothing to do. Like, it's more not about dieting. It's just it's a small, tiny bit, and
Yeah.
just a lot more involved in well-being and mental health, and
Yes.
so. Well, that's a brilliant message. I could be talking more here because I have a lot of questions, but I think we have covered a very powerful message here, and I thank you so much for making me feel so comfortable. See, if you face your fear, it gets easier.
It does.
Thank you very much for sharing such a beautiful and power message with us. And I have actually one question, then we can close. As I mentioned before, a lot of the people that follow me are mothers, and I know a lot of them are going to say, well, it's easy, Sarah, you have no kids. How can I do? I have 2 kids, or I have just a newborn, and I work, or I'm going back to work. What would you say? What's the best way for them to nail this self-care?
Okay. I think if there's one thing, it would be developing the skill of tenderness, of gentleness, of kindness. Because if you infuse your day with it, you can turn things that you are already doing into something deeply nourishing. The way you talk to yourself, the way you dress yourself, the way that you shower, the way that you eat, the way that you move, the way that you breathe. So it doesn't have to be anything extra. It can be just doing the things that you already do, imbuing it with a sense of tenderness and care.
Thank you very much. That's beautiful. Thank you very much, guys, for watching my podcast. So just let me know, how can we find you? I know where you are, but how to find you? How can they find you?
Lovely.
And your books and your website, and if they want to work with you as well.
Amazing. Well, I have a lovely tribe on Instagram at Suzy Reading, and we come together every Monday morning for a little live session on building this self-care habit together, and that's how we can I can answer any questions that people might have after today. But there's more information in my books, The Self-Care Revolution, Stand Tall Like a Mountain, and The Little Book of Self-Care.
I'm going to be
connect with me there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah.
Bye-bye. Thank you guys for watching, and see you soon.